Today on Reupholster, we are taking this ugly old chair and making it gorgeous. Hi everybody, it's Teresa with Reupholster.com. This is a chair that has been living in Addie's room for the last couple of years already. It was given to us by one of his former therapists, and it's just really great and functional for him. It's easy for him to get in and out, which you can't say for every chair, and since it's kind of sloped downwards, it helps him since he still struggles to sit independently. So I'm not getting rid of this thing. Like, it was really hard to find a chair that would meet his needs. And so just because the cover is disgusting now, I can't get rid of it, which means reupholstery. Now, I am not a great reupholsterer by any stretch of the imagination, but I've done enough to be able to fake my way through. And for most of us, that's all we'll ever need to know. So let me show you how I'm going to reupholster this chair, and therefore how I can use those same skills to reupholster just about anything I feel brave enough to take on. The principles are all the same. Okay, so first thing you have to know if you're doing this from scratch and you're not, a trained seamstress or upholsterer, is you have to figure out how this thing is engineered, okay? So in this case, there's this big cover on it. So I just have to take this cover off. And this is what I will be actually upholstering. I'm gonna give the legs a good cleaning, but I'm actually not gonna paint them because Addie still chews on things a lot as part of his disability. So I don't want him to be eating paint. So the rest of this I'm just gonna leave as is. It'll be a really easy project. And I just have to recover this thing. So when I've done this for chairs and things, it's kind of similar. You have to investigate the chair and see where the pieces come together, which piece is on top, which piece has visible closures like staples or zippers, and which pieces have that covered, and then you have to figure out how those pieces are covered. So by investigating, we're going to figure out how we have to build this. So with this piece in particular, now I'm at the point where I can just start to rip open seams. I'm gonna take every seam of this apart so that I can use this as a new pattern piece when I make up my new cover. Now, this one has zippers in every, see there's like 3 little cushion parts, the head, the back, and the seat, and each cushion part has a zipper. And I'm sure that they included that to make it easy to get the cushions in, to stuff it. And that's typically how I make pillows. But for this, I'm not gonna bother with it. That seems extraneous to me since this whole piece is small enough to go in the washing machine, cushions and all. And if your kid ever, has a potty accident or something, you're gonna wanna wash those cushions. So I'm not gonna bother replicating the zippers. I'm going to tear this whole thing apart and get my pattern pieces and start cutting those out of the fabric I want to use. And so I'm not going to worry about, these seams here where they make up the zipper. I'm going to be using a different method, which I'll show you once I get there. So I'm going to get to ripping and show you from that point. This is my seat cover when all of the pieces are taken apart. So I went ahead and used these pieces as patterns and cut them out of this great flannel I got from my friends at Michael Levine at lowpricefabric.com is their website. And so this is this great flannel that fits in with kind of the motif I'm going for in Addie's room. And since it's a woven fabric, it can fray very easily. And whenever you do an upholstery project or anything that's stuffed with a woven fabric, you're really gonna wanna make sure that you zigzag around the edges. Because as you're stuffing and all of that, it can just become a frayed mess. And if it frays past your seam line, you're kind of sunk. So I've already gone ahead and cut out my patterns and I zigzagged all the edges. And so at this point, I'm going to refer back to my pattern pieces and kind of transfer any markings. So here, there's a line, it's sewn like through both layers to kind of make up the sections where we put the stuffing to make up the seat in the back and the headrest. So I'm going to trace that line onto my new fabric with chalk so that as I stuff these pieces together, I'll know, you know, where to make those kinds of seams. So along with the front and back of the seats, my piece also had these little, they kind of acted as like envelopes that made the seat cover fit onto the seat. So I've cut those and zigzagged, and since these pieces are hemmed, I went ahead and hemmed my new pieces as well. So I'm basically just going through each step, each piece as I dismantled this, and replicating it on my new fabric. So you kind of want to pay attention to the order things come apart in so that you can put them back together in the reverse order. So taking lots of pictures can really help you do this. Like as you rip out a seam, take a picture so that you know what pieces fit together, and you're totally going to want to mark all of your pieces. You know, I'm doing such a simple project that it's easy for me to keep it straight, but when I've done chairs or even a couch, you are absolutely going to want to mark which armrest this came from, if this is the back or the front, or, you know, whatever, so that you can kind of keep track of things as you're going. So when I consulted the pictures that I took of me disassembling this thing, I know that the next step is to deal with these little envelopes. So I noticed as I was ripping the thing apart that they are actually sewn right sides together. So I'm going to pick one of these pieces here to be my front, and I marked which direction was the top. So I'll line up and this is marked bottom. So this gets lined up on the bottom, and this gets lined up on the top. And I'm going to sew these two pieces to what will become the back piece before I then sew these two pieces together. So basically what you should be taking from this, since you're not going to have the same kind of a project, is just to refer to your pictures, and now I'm reassembling it in the backwards order, right? Okay, so I'm going to sew my little envelopes on, and from there, consulting with my pictures, I'm going to sew the front piece on. Now, I mentioned that I'm not going to be using zippers, so I have to leave a way for these to get stuffed. And the way that I'm going to do that is by leaving a side open. So I'm going to sew the front to the back all the way around, leaving a side open for stuffing. And then I'm going to start paying attention to all those marks I transferred. So let me get up to that step so you can see what I'm talking about. This is what this seat looks like when it's partially stuffed. So I sewed all the way around, sewing up to where I made the markings that were on the other what I was using as my pattern for where the cushions go. So I've sewn everything but what will be the middle cushion, and I've turned the whole thing inside out and then given it a good iron. I want to make my sides nice and crisp, particularly on this part which I'm leaving open. A good ironing here will make closing it up so much easier and will give you so much better of a finished look. So after the ironing, I'm reusing the same cushion pieces. So I took the one that's used for the seat and the one that's used for the headrest, and I've already stuck those inside. So now what I'm going to do is continue to follow the patterns that I'm borrowing. So the next step, like as I was dismantling this, I continue to take pictures, so I'm working backwards, and now I know the next step is to sew a seam right up against these two cushions to kind of keep everything in place and give it a nice easy place to bend. So I'm going to sew those two lines, and then I'm going to take the last cushion and stuff it in the middle before I can close this whole thing up, and I'll be done. So once I've got my cushion stuffed, I'm just going to do what I can using a zipper foot on my sewing machine, because I'll be working in very tight circumstances, to sew a very thin line all the way around the fabric, and I'm going to get as close to the edge as I can. So this will close up my stuffing point, but it will also make the whole bit look finished. And I'm gonna do this as soon as I answer the door. Did you hear the doorbell? Oh my gosh. See, I'm multitasking for you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna answer the door and then I'm gonna get to sewing. So here is my chair all finished and I think it looks amazing. This was such an eyesore in Addie's room, but I couldn't bear to get rid of it because it was just so functional. So now it's got the great function, but it's also got a little pretty form to it as well. Addie loves the soft flannel. He's already been running over and petting it. So I think he's gonna love this chair just as much as I do. And I hope that this was inspiring to show you that you don't have to be an upholsterer to tackle a project. You just have to take lots of pictures, go slow, follow your notes, and work backwards. It's just a case of reverse engineering. So I think, I've done the same kind of reverse engineering tack for something as big as couches, but if you start with something like this, you can work your way up to whatever you want to do, just gaining a little bit of courage and a little bit of experience as you do it. So you can do this. I hope you'll give it a try, and please leave me a comment if you do. Thanks again to my friends at Michael Levine Fabrics, and you can find them at lowpricefabric.com, who gave me this material so that I could make something cool with it. Please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of my great ideas, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.